Without emotional connection, it's very hard to build trust because we are all emotional, right? We buy from emotions. We are led by emotions. People buy from you because the way you show up, the way you embody your truth. People don't buy just for information, right? They don't buy a product. They buy into a movement.
Hey there, everybody. It's Erica. We are so excited to have Penny Sue here today. She is just so brilliant. You've got to watch her on social media because she shows up with such a strong and energetic presence. Her posts just hit you right in the core. I wanted to invite her in here because having big money energy, as Penny is going to talk about today, is really important for a lot of people. I'll let Larissa share a little bit more about Penny too.
Hey everyone, welcome again to another one of our fantastic masterclasses. Today we have the lovely Penny Sue, who is a brand and messaging strategist. She has over 10 years of experience in branding and marketing and has helped many clients develop compelling brand narratives. Penny is passionate about authentic conversations and encourages her clients to embrace their unique voice and values in their brand messaging. We are so lucky to have her join us here today, all the way from New Zealand, to share her expertise in unleashing our boss energy. Let's give a warm welcome to the wonderful Penny Sue.
Thank you, ladies. And that was, wow, what an introduction, Larissa. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Penny Sue. Great to be here. And thanks for having me here, Erica and Larissa. I'm going to talk about how to show up with big presence and attract big money with the big money energy. I want to share a bit about my story. So what you see now is like this version of me wasn't the same a couple years ago. When I started, it was so hard because I'm someone who wears my heart on my sleeve, say what I want, say what I think. So when I started, I was like, okay, I can't swear, I can say certain things. I need to be very prim and proper and professional, and I can make mistakes. It all comes down from feeling the need to seek validation. Another really ridiculous thing that I used to feel is my accent. I was like, oh my God, I can't listen to my accent. It was so uncomfortable to me because I was like, everyone has this amazing Western accent, the British accent, the Canadian, the American accent, and I was wishing that I speak like that. At some point, I was like, you know what? I'll just roll with it. Because at that time, I was like, will people actually buy from me? Because I speak different. And it was not very common to see someone who looks like me. Once I got over it and my business was starting to grow and I started to charge more money. If I charge more, would people think that I'm a bad person, that I actually only care about money? One day I realized I'm not fully owning my voice and standing out about what I stand for and what I stand against and why am I different. And I've started to realize that I was becoming like everyone else, but I have so much to give. That also comes with thoughts of if I share too much free stuff, no one wants to buy my stuff. And what I realize when I'm not speaking my truth, I water down my content. I sound like everybody else. And I started to attract wildly misaligned clients because people follow you because the way you show up, the energy that you show up with. So one day I was like, okay, I can't go on like this because I'm so uncomfortable when I can't be myself. Or I feel everything that I do, I have to watch my words. I have to say a certain thing, be a certain way. And then I realized I'm not here to be tolerated. The way I am is nothing to be tolerated. And I don't want to be accepted because the most important thing I realized, no one has the power to accept me but myself. So it doesn't matter who accepts me, I exist and I am. So that started to change the things that I do, the things that I say, and it blew my mind because suddenly everything became easier. And people were starting to buy from me, saying what I want to say, and writing content became so much easier because I started to fully own myself. There's a lot of misconception that your brand is what people think of you. This is true, but it's not the entirety of what it means. Your brand is who you are and how people perceive you. How people perceive you is something that you can control, and who you are is something that is evolving, right? Who Penny was 2 years ago is very different from who Penny is today. We need to keep making sure that these two parts are always aligning. And if you are not perceived the way that you are, it's something that you can work on. Your quirkiness, your flaws, your imperfections. This is how people relate to you. Your craziness is all part of your brand. Without emotional connection, it's very hard to build trust because we are all emotional, right? We buy from emotions. We are led by emotions, right? So the cost, what are your personal beliefs? What is something that you hold so dear? What is something that you would die on the hill for, right? And so it's different to everyone. And it could be anything, right? So it could be something that's very personal to you, of how you lead your life, or it could be something about social or what you want to do in your business. For example, the way I build business, one thing that I don't do in my business, I don't go in and get into very pushy sales calls. That's something that is against my value and something that I don't do. The thing is that you have the power and the personality that determines how people perceive you, because this is super important. People don't buy just for information, right? They don't buy a product. They buy into a movement. When you have a cause, this is what makes you different from your competitor. Right? I'll give you some examples. And think about Tom's shoes. They build the brand by building a movement about buying one shoe so someone else gets a pair of shoes. When they spend that money, they say, you're not just buying a pair of shoes, they're buying into a movement. They're buying into a message that empowers them. And you think about Ben and Jerry, they're not just selling ice cream, right? Ben and Jerry has been very vocal about diversity and all the social justice. So it's what you stand for. So people align that. They're like, these are the values that I live by, and I buy into the values. If you look into what you own right now, right, the clothes that you wear, the shoes, the food that you have in your fridge, the car that you drive, in some ways, it all aligns with you, your values, right? Sure, we buy things because they're pretty, they're useful. Something like washing detergent. Maybe someone will spend more money buying eco-friendly detergent. So this is the difference of someone paying 10 product or $100 or $1,000. So this all start with your cost to build emotional connection. The next thing to build your brand is competence. And when we talk about competence, what is that? What is it that makes you different than others, right? What makes you so good? What makes you stand out as an expert? So this could be a lot of things. This could be the way that you show up for your audience, the things that you say, like Erica. Erica is someone who really is sweet and caring, right? So this is how she stands out. So it doesn't have to be like, I have this new framework that no one has. Yeah, framework is great, but it's that little bit of your secret sauce, what that is, what you stand by, what is the topic, what do you say? I remember back in 2020, I was doing this research about the Nobino effects on humans versus the placebo effect. And that's when I started about the concept of no pain point marketing. Stop poking pain into your audience. So that was something that I stood for and I still stand for right now. So if you think about brand Fenty Cosmetics and Rihanna, why they are worth billions now. What was so different about Fenty when it came out into the market? It was like the leader of inclusive beauty, empowering women. Because back then, there were not that many brands offering shades for people of all different color shades. You easily go into Sephora and find Fenty and they would have 50, 60 shades, which was like something that the market has been crying about for years. And yet, nobody was giving it to them. And it's not only that the product fulfills that gap in the market. The constant messaging is about, we see you, we are here for you, and we give you what you want. And this is showing the competence, right? That you have a cause and you align the cause by showing you walk your talk. When you look at brands like Apple, they have consistently built their competence, right? They show that the products are really good, they have a fan base. And because of that, any products that Apple release, people will actually go for it. And this is called the halo effects. They use that to dominate sales. So years ago, iPods was the #1 product for Apple 20 years ago. And they consistently use it. So it wasn't the most profitable product for Apple, but they use it across a lot of their marketing and their advertising. And it has this halo effects on all the other products and it starts to build it. So people were like, wow, iPod is so amazing. It's so good. So I'll buy something else. Apple computers have been around for much longer. It was from the beginning, but it was the iPod that lifted them to the next level. And now the iPhone. And then when the iPhone came out, it was such a profitable product and also something that everyone wants. So it has these halo effects. So I would love to hear from you in your audience. If you're watching this live or if you're watching this as replay, share in the comments what makes you better than your competitors, what makes you stand out, what makes you so confident. So it could be how much you care, the way you support your clients, the way that you run your containers. So if you're a service provider, it's the extra care that you go into. It could be that you are someone who's always there for your clients. If you work with coaches, if you're a coach yourself, maybe you're someone who's like always there for accountability. So what is that for you? So same as Erica, right? What makes her so unique is that she really cares about her clients, and everyone who works with Erica, they feel amazing. Now you have built the emotional connection with your brand. The third thing is certainty. And certainty is what builds trust, because this is how you show what you do, what you trust, what your cause is about, and how you show it over and over again. It's by that builds that certainty, right? People see you do something once, they're like, okay, she's good. They see you do it second time, 10 times, 500 times. You're like, okay, I'm pretty sure she's very good now. It's a certainty. When you go to a restaurant, you're like, okay, this time the restaurant, the food there is amazing. The third time you go, nah. And then it's like the 10th times you go there, it's like pretty amazing. It's like inconsistent. So what you're gonna tell people? You're like, yeah, it's pretty good, but they're inconsistent. So there's no certainty. And what really builds trust is certainty. This is the difference between attracting high value, self-led clients to clients who are only in for short term, who maybe just want to work with you once, maybe a workshop or one session. This is how to build that longevity and the loyalty, by seeing how you lead and how you embody it. People buy from you because the way you show up, the way you embody your truth, and how you stand by your values and you lead through all that, whatever comes your way, whatever obstacle that you have. So how many times have you chosen a product because of what it stands for? For instance, I have been a loyal customer of MAC makeup for a very long time. And when a couple of years ago, there was this news saying that MAC started to test on animals, and I stopped. So it tested my loyalty to the brand. So I started to look at other brands. I still love MAC, but I started to look at other brands. Before that, I'll buy everything MAC, and I don't even think about any other brands because I love their products. And this is what really grounds and attract people and have that strong bond and that trust that people have. This is something that for a lot of brands, they don't compromise, because they know if they compromise, that they will lose that loyalty, they'll lose the trust of the customers they have built all these years. If you guys remember, this is really iconic marketing campaign a couple of years ago with Nike and Colin Kaepernick. There was this campaign where you have the face of Colin Kaepernick, close-up shot of his face. And if you don't know who he is, he's an NFL player. And back at that time, he was kneeling to stand up about the violence and the inequality. And the slogan of the ad says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, just do it. So what happened to Colin Kaepernick is that his contract was cancelled because what he stood up for. He stood up for the injustice, and his NFL contract was cancelled. And Nike signed him up to run this campaign. And that campaign, when it came out, everyone was like, oh my God. Some people were like, oh my God, we have to burn Nike. So there were tons of people going to the stores or burning the Nike shoes, the clothes that they have. It was drawing a lot of attention. And people were protesting. They were like, no, this is wrong, Nike. We've been long-time supporters of you. And now we're not buying your stuff. But Nike stood strong. Nike did not budge at all. And it was a very brave campaign to do that time because there's so much at stake. But Nike stood strong and did not backflip, did not bend, they back it 100%. It was amazing to watch. And that year, sales went up 31%. And Nike stocks, I think it hit a value of $3 billion after that campaign. So a lot of marketers, analysts, everyone was like, how can this happen? And this is what has been building Nike's brand all these years. Right? They were always going for something different. Sure, it helps to have huge budget, but they're very smart, they're very savvy. And if you look at brands that have failed recently, Bud Light, right? When they feature a transgender woman in their campaign, there were a lot of people who actually start to cancel Bud Light beers. And they're like, we're not buying these beers because you use a transgender woman. And what Bud wanted to do at the time was they wanted to capture younger audience to drink their beers because their audience were mostly middle-aged men. And then what happened was they actually backflipped. They started apologizing, they pulled the ads, and the sales dive even further. And what that says about it, because they were vague in their cause. They wanted to show something. They want to say, hey, we're different. But hey, no, actually, we are not that different. We actually don't really have the balls to be that different. Let's go back to what we were before. So it ended up really bad for them. It was significant. When you share a cause, the cause that you believe in, that cause, it changes with time. People's values changes with how much we know about certain things that we say now. We can't say what we used to say in the 90s, right? If you watch Friends, there's a lot of things that they say in Friends that they can't say now, right? You have to adapt. And Victoria's Secret is another brand that was not able to adapt to the changing environment, to what their audience believe in. And this is why they have had such a downfall. People used to really looking forward to the Victoria's Secret fashion shows, because over time, people feel like the messaging is not empowering, it's over-sexualizing women, and it's not real, it's not body positive, because no one looks like that in real life. They got so much criticism and they haven't changed over the years. So this shows the clearer you are on what you stand for, the more loyal your fans are. And if you say something, make sure that you actually back it. Sometimes we as humans, we learn things, right? But we will say certain things. We work with what information we have at the time. And then we're like, okay, that information was incorrect. And then you move on. Just show it and say, hey, that information was incorrect. And that's totally fine. If you have something that you believe in, certain things don't change. So if you're someone who believes in empowering women, or you believe in diversity, that is something that you can't say, oh, no, I don't believe that anymore. That will be very vague, right? That doesn't build certainty. So we have cost, competence, certainty, and now care. Why do we spend on high ticket items? Why do we buy luxury goods? Why do we go to expensive, nice restaurants? Why do we go to nice hotels or airlines? Because we want to be pampered. We want to be cared for. This is why you buy a pair of Lululemon yoga pants that's $100 versus $10 price. For example, Ritz-Carlton, let's say if they have a customer who's actually not happy with the service or the product, their employees have an allowance up to $2,000 to fix that problem. So this empowers their employees to make that decision on the spot and really go to that full extent to care for their customers. This is why they have built this brand over the years. Ritz-Carlton has been around for a long time. And yet, when you think about their brand, you think about prestige, you think about, yep, you're going to have experience like no other. And people book months, years ahead to have dinner there, to stay there, because they know they're going to be so well cared for. If you're a coach or if you're a service provider, whether it's online or offline, is that people pay for that high touch experience. They pay for the proximity. So if you are a coach, or the simple things that you can implement in your business is to have surveys or have very effective, efficient communication that people can reach out to you, whether by email or any other social media platforms, and to get upgrades as a service provider. I love giving upgrades to my clients from time to time. This is how we surprise our clients. The high-end clients, they buy proximity, they buy for experience. They're not buying for information, because at the end of the day, the information that we share are not very different, because there are certain things about what we do, right? Whether you're a life coach or marketer, a lot of the information, like the information I share with you today, someone would say something quite similar. But what is going to differentiate us is like the way we work with people, and people actually pay for that proximity or the simplicity. So I have clients who upgrade to work with me one-on-one after buying a program or a mini program for $297 or $497, because they want that proximity, they want that experience. What is making the difference of someone who works with you short-term, or they keep renewing their contracts with you for long-term mentorship? So if you look at your services, your offers, see how you can always add that into your services, right? Like it could be something as simple as sending a message or like simplifying the way that people can communicate with you. So to round this up today, to build that bigness into your brand is through emotional connection with your brand, and then to build trust. Without emotional connection, which comes from your cost and competence, it's very hard to build trust. And once you build trust, you can build brand authority where people hear your brand, your name, they're like, wow, that person, I know she's an expert. I know that her product is great. Her services is great. Her clients are happy. So it all boils down to the cost that you're building, that you are showing, right? The bigness in your brand is actually what draws and attracts big money and big money energy. So remember the next time that whatever that you want to release, whether it's a product or a masterclass, what you want to do, just to remember that you can talk about your cause. You are here, you are the only one of you, and you don't have to be watered down. You're not to be tolerated. You're not to be accepted because no one has that power over you except you. And it doesn't matter who you are, you exist and you are. Thank you.
Oh, Penny, I love that so much. I feel like through so many pieces of that, I was almost crying because I feel like you just explained so much that is missing for so many people because we don't think of things this way. It's not natural. It is for Penny, but maybe not for the rest of us. We don't look at things this way and pull apart the pieces to say, like, why is that working? Or how did that build trust? Or how does that build certainty in our brand? Or what if we launch something and then we back down? What does that say about us? Nobody really thinks about this. So I think that was amazing from start to finish. And I loved it so much. I was so in it with you that I'm like, oh, is it almost over? I don't want it to be done. If anyone has questions, go ahead and add them into the comments. Larissa and I are going to have some questions to start off with. Savannah is saying this masterclass was great from start to finish. I totally agree.
Oh my goodness.
On fire, Penny. Not even joking around today.
Exactly what you said, Erica, with the whole thing. I felt like I wanted to tear up with that last line about that we exist and we are. Not a lot of people think about themselves because especially with service providers, they're so worried about how do I show up for my clients? How do I give them a full version of me when you should be taking care of yourself? I love that. And I love the empowerment in your message. And I have a couple of questions. One is for those entrepreneurs who are still in the beginning stages of finding their brand identity. What steps would you recommend they do to help find their unique voice?
So for anyone who's starting out, I totally understand. I was so confused as I started out because there was so much going around. Your brand is this, your brand is that, your brand personality, blah, blah, blah. Truly, the easiest way, and it applies to a lot of things. Who are you not? To know who you are, the easiest way to say, okay, what am I not available for, right? What do you want to showcase? For me, when I first came out, I was like, I've always known that I'm blunt. People came to me like, I love the way you just don't hold back. You tell it as it is. I was like, wow, that makes my life so easy. I don't have to mince my words. When I'm blunt, it's not coming from a place to be critical, to belittle people. So go back to your personality. What is it that could be something that your friends could say? Maybe there's certain things they say, oh, you're actually quite funny. So what is it that you really want to amplify? Right? Your personality, you can bring, and it changes on all the time. Your brand doesn't stay at the same place, but it could change in 6 months. Right? I look back to my brand, right? The more I grow as a person, the more my brand and my voice change. And if people are perceiving you differently, then you realize that, hey, okay, there's incompetence here. So I need to make sure that if I'm someone who talk about certain topics, if these people don't get that, I need to talk about it more.
I love that. And I love what you said, how your brand doesn't stay in the same place the more that you evolve and you change. I know that on social media, you have these amazing Facebook posts. Like, I love reading them. I see that it's a clear example of your realness and how you own your bigness. Can you tell us the process that you go through when you're creating these posts on how you're able to translate your personality into your content creation? What is your mindset, your intention, your environment like when you're creating these posts?
Oh, that's a really cool and great question. I don't really have a process because I don't even think about it anymore. But what makes it easy is that I'm someone who, if you know me in real life, I'll crack a joke and nothing is like too much for me. I'm someone who like could crack jokes all day, and then the next thing I can talk about really deep stuff, social injustice and all that. And I balance it out because that's what I naturally do anyway. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to talk about something serious. So my process is I don't want to talk about something serious today because it doesn't feel good to me today. So I'll just crack a joke. And sometimes this actually builds your brand trust, because if you meet someone for the first time, they're really easy, they make you laugh. That makes you feel like that person is not taking himself or herself too seriously. So it automatically makes you feel like, hey, you know what? That feels human. It's a humanness that people connect to. If people like me, then they'll like me. Those people who don't like me, it's great because the people who like me will like me even more. It's hard, but it's like trying to remind myself that I'm not doing this to be liked, because it's not important. But the most important thing is I like myself. So that has been a real game changer for me.
Oh my God. I love that so much because it's so true what you say, especially on social media when it's so easy to get caught up into trends and what is everyone else vibing with, when really you should just be yourself and you will already stand out because you're the only one who can be you.
Don't be the
Yeah.
vanilla ice cream, right, Penny?
You can be, double chocolate, pear.
Mexican chocolate with a little bit of spice.
Oh, that sounds really good.
I'm just saying, like, here's my question about owning that polarity, because I think at the end of the day, when people see Penny's content or when they see her posts, what they love about it is that it shakes things up a little bit. It's challenging the norm, truly authentic. She's speaking from the heart. She's speaking like a person, right? She just said the humanness is the piece that people connect to. She's unapologetic. How do you own that polarizing energy? How are you okay with being so authentically yourself, knowing that it's going to repel some people and attract others?
So one thing that's very simple, I even have a t-shirt that says, your opinion doesn't pay my bills, which is true, right? I have friends on Facebook who are like my high school friends, my cousins, and people that I don't speak to anymore. And I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't say this. Like, they might be thinking I'm just making fun of them. But at the end of the day, I'm like, you guys are not paying the bills. You're not my clients. So it doesn't matter, right? The right people will come to me. And I do this in my personal life as well. We have election coming up and I speak very clearly. Some people don't talk about it. They don't like to talk about it. They feel like they shouldn't be talking about election, who they want to vote for, who they support. And I feel like this is a conversation we should talk about. And I accept people can have very different opinions than mine. And this is what makes it interesting. Like, my opinion and my values are for me. You don't have to share the same opinions, right? But I don't need to challenge yours unless it's something that's harmful. I just saw this post a few days ago. Someone who's like wildly successful woman who say she's afraid to talk about her faith, her being a Catholic, because she worries that people don't want to follow her, they disengage. And I'm like, to be honest, in the business sense, your faith is for you. And as long as you believe that, I totally can respect that. And I think that for a lot of people, they feel like, oh, I can't talk about my faith or my non-faith, right? I'm an atheist, so I'm not religious at all, never been. But my whole family is religious. So I think it's from that environment that I feel like it's fine. You guys do what you want. You go to the church and I'm not going there. And I drive my mom to the church and it's fine. Right? It's like that thought of we can all be different. And my opinion is for myself. And your opinion is for you. I have been in containers where my coach is really religious, and that's fine. I see where they're coming from, and I was like, they can speak what is true to them, what they believe in, and I can speak about mine. We can have a healthy conversation or debate and discussion like an adult and walk away and just not hold grudge to people for what they believe in. Like, you may not understand like why they believe that, but it's their belief. And I also believe at the end of the day, it's a choice to be offended, right? If you say something, if you choose not to be offended, sometimes it's hard, I know. It's really what you process. And to be honest, in the last couple of years, what we've gone through with COVID and everything, it's almost like anything will upset people. We used to say, don't talk about politics. on social media. Don't talk about politics in business, but that gives them wide open. Everyone has been talking about it, and there's actually no more barrier. Like you can talk about almost anything like that. I also think there is a line we have to draw where that discussion is healthy. Opinion is someone's opinion. We need to be respectful of that and not to cancel because someone saying something that's different from you. And I am someone, if I don't like what I see on my social media feed, unless it's harmful, then I would say something. But if there's someone say, I post about wearing makeup and I love wearing makeup. And if someone says that, oh, I hate wearing makeup, I'll be like, meh, I'm fine. You can say whatever you want. I know I'm not that. So I can make me peace and it doesn't change my day. My life rolls on. It's so easy to be offended about everything and you have to choose where to draw that line to not be offended about everything.
Yeah, I love that. I almost feel like that is a next level earth conversation, which I know it sounds really big, but for people to be able to share their own truth or speak their mind in a respectful environment, I think in a way that's something that we can do, all of us together, that we are actually building people up by sharing truths and being respectful at the same time. And I think when we don't and when we hide, it's allowing other people to control the narrative of society. So I think that in a way, it's almost like a social responsibility to share what we believe because it gives permission for other people to agree. And somebody might be too shy to say it as well. And so we have a lot of service entrepreneurs. That's who we work with. A lot of our clients, in essence, are able to hide behind their work, myself included, where we're showing photos or videos of our work or our portfolio, and that is our social media. And there are so many people in our world, our clients, our audience, that they haven't made that leap to share behind the scenes. So they haven't allowed people to see them, the artist, or their opinion and why they do things the way that they do. And so my question for you is, for someone who is maybe nervous to step out from behind the curtain, how do we go about incorporating our voice and our beliefs and our cause into our marketing if we have never done it before? How do we make the shift, or how do we start to bridge the gap there?
No, that's a really good question. If you ask me this same question 5 years ago, I'll be like, I don't know how to answer that because I wasn't able to embrace that, to embody it. So now that I've done it, it's okay, cool. A lot of times we're not showing up as much because we fear that people will cancel us. This is like the biggest thing. I was watching YouTube. This YouTuber was saying, for your business, you need to hustle, but don't cancel me for that. I'm like, if you say something, like don't tell people not to cancel you, they cancel you. It's like to be okay to be canceled, that people are gonna cancel you. It's like having friends. Right? I always ask myself, would you have 100 friends, but if you fell in the gutter because you were too drunk, right? If you had 100 friends, and none of that would come save you and pull you out of the gutter? Or would you rather have 2 friends, and if you fell, first of all, they probably watch you not falling into the gutter. But if you do fall into the gutter, everyone will pick you up, send you to the hospital, make sure they're not hurt, send you home, bring soup to you tomorrow, things like that. People would like you or not like you for many reasons. And some reasons you can't control just because they don't like you. And I think it's hard. It's so easy for me to say it, but I have always been someone who's a bit more different. And to really like being different and to being okay with being different, it takes a while to put them together. Yes, we share more behind the scenes. I find that in society, we are over that perfectionism. And sometimes we say it, right? If I'm fine with not being super perfectional about everything, but do I want to show up on camera without makeup every day? No. On some days, I can deal with that. But whether it's a perfection in the way we look, the way we sound, we all gonna make mistakes. And what is fun about that is that because you make mistakes, you look bad, there's always improvement. So you can't get worse, you can only get better. So if that transitioning could be very small, you can do it in small steps, right? So for instance, you have a business and you have beautiful photos and things that you hide behind. Maybe you can start sharing one. What is that thought that you have that you never really want to share? Could be a thought of as simple as, you know what, I think that pumpkin spice latte is disgusting. Okay, like it's something small. right? It doesn't have to be a big topic.
Oh,
but
you know what? You're just on to something because Paula said right here, she said, it's so hard to let myself be seen. And then you were talking about if you share a photo or you're sharing your work, the easiest step would be like, why did you make that decision? If you're a travel consultant like Paula and you're doing travel services, why do you love New Zealand so much? It's so simple. Like you can show up and
yeah,
talk about why do you love New Zealand so much? Or if you're a floral designer and you're choosing peonies in the spring for a New England wedding, why can you only get peonies in May and June in the spring? Why is that a spring flower? As an artist, which many of our clients are in one way or the other, the easiest way to bridge the gap between hiding behind the work and showing up is to talk about your work. It's that simple.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why did you choose that cake if you're an event planner? Or why is that the best dress for this bride's body shape? And so now we can be pulling in, hey, I posted this yesterday about this stunning couture gown that my bride was wearing. If you missed the post, go back and check it out. I wanted to share a little bit more about that and where the inspiration came from. This is just taking like the concept to conversation in a way.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good example, right? Where we don't always have to ruffle feathers, right? You can say why you support something. Let's say why do you choose a certain flower, or you say a dress. So then it's like when you support something, when you say yes, I'm pro this versus this, and then because of these reasons. And it's okay because you truly believe that it's easier to say something that you believe in rather than, okay, I'll just say something to rile everybody up just to make a step.
Yeah, I honestly think that could be a big breakthrough for a lot of people. So this is something that I think everyone can look at and think, what is Penny talking about when she says, what do you stand for? And because you love it so much, it gravitates other people towards you. So if it's why New Zealand, why do you love it so much? That will make other people fall in love with it too. Or why not to go to New Zealand in a certain time of year? Because you've been there, done that. You're going to save someone from doing the same thing that maybe they wish they didn't do, right? And I'm just using random examples. But I think that it would be a really good first step for people to step out. Like Penny is saying, you don't need to jump out and just become like polarizing or boldly
Yeah, that could be
authentic.
very
Just
scary.
share your thoughts. Like, why did you pick this? Why did you choose this? Why is this what you're doing? Why do you have a certain process in your business? And then that's allowing people to come behind the curtain and know why you're making your decisions. And that builds trust in and of itself. Just letting people behind the curtain and thinking of it that way. Everyone who's listening to this now can see how that can build such a strong connection with the audience and trust, like Penny was talking about, because they're hearing something that they aren't hearing from everybody else because everyone else is too afraid to talk about it. And that's the reality of it. Larissa, did you have one more?
Yeah, I had one more question. This one I'm going to pivot a little bit. So it's how do you show up in your bigness and being your authentic self while also maintaining your boundaries on what you share on social media?
Oh, that's really great question. The boundaries part, this is something that is still work in progress for me. For instance, the boundaries of like when I answer messages, what time I allow. And I try not to answer any messages on the weekend. The boundary for myself, for self-care, like my work, if we're talking about things that I don't want to speak about. For instance, my partner, he's not on social media at all. And he doesn't want to be on it. And it's totally fine not to be included. That's why I've never really mentioned him in any of my content because he doesn't want to. I have nothing to hide. There's nothing to be embarrassed, or he just doesn't want to be on it. So that is the boundary that I have. A lot of people think that they have to show up and be vulnerable and everything, right? Yes, you can be vulnerable only if you can share it when you've already gotten over it, where it doesn't bother. It's so hard. This is something that I couldn't stand back years ago. It's like, why do we all have to be sharing every dirty laundry that we have? You think about it, in 5 years' time, is that gonna build your brand as a person as well? Some of my videos from 5 years ago, oh, they're so awful, but I'll leave it there because it's character building. And it's hilarious. If there's something that if you're like, no, this is too private, this is like my private life, and it's something that's vulnerable, it's probably gonna hurt someone else. It could be as simple as if you have children and you're like, I'm not sure if I want to share, because that's her privacy. I want to have that boundary of not sharing her photos, right? I have family who would never share their kids' photos online for security and privacy reasons, right? So it could be any reason. So if you don't want to do that, then don't do it. You always have the choice to choose what is right for you, regardless of what people say. When you are vulnerable, make sure that as a brand, we also want to protect it, right? If you're someone who's like constantly showing up to lead your clients and you're going through something very emotional right now, but you can talk about it after it has happened and you show that, hey, I am, as much as I talk about being resilient and being a leader, I'm a human. We all know that we are not robots, right? We have emotions, we have weaknesses, we have days when our emotional health, our mental health would be challenged. And it's very important to speak about those challenges that we have, as long as that is something that is okay with you, that you're like, this is now something that I can talk about, as long as it's not triggering. And I talk about certain things that I would have avoided, but avoiding them would actually just make myself feel smaller. And once I've shared it, I was like, yeah. So this is my personality.
Yeah. And I love the thought too of when you're choosing when to share a story, it's too soon, or maybe you haven't gone through and come to the other side, and maybe there's no ending to the story yet, or there's no resolution to the story. So that's something to think about being vulnerable or sharing. Are you still vulnerable in that moment, or are you sharing it because now it's going to become an inspiring story because you've taken someone through with you how you've been through this thing and now how you've come to a new place? But one thing that you just said that I really love when you said mentally, like mindset wise, is they think that showing up means being vulnerable. But I think it doesn't have to mean being vulnerable unless you want it to, or unless it's healthy for you to do that. Showing up or having big money energy can also be about being professional. And I think that a lot of our audience and a lot of our clients will appreciate that because there are professionals. Right. So we don't have to show up in a way of being vulnerable. We can also show up in a way of being professional, or we can show up in a way of being creative or sharing a part of the creative process, or we can show up in a way of sharing information or educating or teaching. It doesn't have to always just be come behind the scenes. We can share it in so many of these different ways. And I think that any of those versions of sharing are still big money energy. Being professional is still big money energy. Being creative is still big money energy because we're basically showing up in a way that other people aren't showing up.
Yeah. Be bold. And if you believe in something, like you say that, hey, pumpkin spice latte is the best thing to drink in the world, right? You can go all out. And then people who is on the same boat, who believes that, who likes it as well, they'll be like, yes, it's the best ever, right? And it doesn't have to always be a soft story because it depends what it is, right? Sometimes it could be a criticism that you've received in your business where you're like, someone criticized you and you look into it and you own up to it. Like maybe there's a mistake that you've made and you've totally owned up to it, or it was not a mistake, right? So whatever that is, it's vulnerable to share a criticism or something that is a mistake that you've made. That is also vulnerability. It doesn't have to always be like tear jerking, rip your heart open. It doesn't always have to be like that, and it shouldn't, because you first of all, you have to protect yourself.
Yeah. And I think that is really important for people to think about, that showing up doesn't mean being vulnerable. Showing up can mean professional. Big money energy comes from being yourself and not feeling like you have to be something for somebody else. I think if we can hear those themes in what Penny's talking about, it will help us. Many of us are such beginners, Penny, when it comes to showing up. Some of us have been in business for 15, 20, 30 years and are still beginners at letting people behind the curtain. So we appreciate all of this. And this has been absolutely invaluable. Thank you so much, Penny, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Erica and Larissa, for having me here. I have had a ball. It's fun.
We love it. And to all of you who are watching, thank you for being here, whether you're on live or replay, and feel free to comment along if you're on replay, just as if you're live. So we appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming in. And thanks to all of you guys for watching. All right, guys, we'll see y'all soon. Bye.